I'm all zoomed in. Oh, whatever.
We're on. We're live. What up, Mr. Thomas?
What's happening?
Oh,
I can get my
a lot of
setup.
life, a lot of life happening. But we're finally back. What is it?
Yes,
I postponed 2 or 3 times.
there was a hurricane.
Yep.
Whatever.
Uh,
Whole bunch of stuff.
and you made it through traffic today.
I have a. I have some takeaways from that. I was like thinking of it. So I got a
Oh,
haircut.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's like
what
my
were the
hair is all messed
takeaways?
up. We're gonna. I've weaved it in to the
Mm.
show notes
Fancy.
because it links to chapter 5
Got
and
it.
possibly chapter 6.
Right, so because we're wrapping up chapter five of the fifth discipline, and actually Justin Uyar, he did a presentation of Mr. Clyde. What's going on, Clyde? Says it's a crazy day.
Oh wow, we got some rock
We
stars.
got Miss Megan. Have you connected with Megan yet, Thomas? You should.
She's an attorney. I don't know if I should. Yikes.
Yes, she's awesome, man. She's the coolest. Yes, she is the coolest. Um, But Justin did a presentation and he was talking, gosh darn it, he used words out of this book. That's what I remember.
Oh
Him and
wow.
Kevin Reck. Kevin was talking about the 8 wastes. And see, even Megan was there. She got to see Justin's presentation. What's the word that Peter uses? It's not confirmation bias, but it's something along the lines of confirmation bias, where we see the same thing coming up and we kind of decide this is the issue without understanding the whole system. We blame the person, or we blame the
Shifting the
point.
burden.
Yeah,
But
it'll come to me. And Justin, if you're
okay.
out there, let us know, because he did a hell of a job explaining it in simple terms. You know her?
Ooh, the famous lady.
The famous
Wow.
lady.
Oh wow. I gotta like.
Pick it up. Pick
Oh
it up.
wow. Jeez.
And then we got Mr.
Be
Darrow.
still. Be still, my beating heart. Wow. Okay.
Darrow's always committed to learning and supporting. So we're wrapping up. You said chapter 5. You have some
Mm-hmm.
lessons learned from the hurricane, and we're getting into chapter 6, right? And so, where shall we start?
I want to talk. First of all, I want to just address my absence last week from San Diego.
Yes.
There was so many people from DPR there, rock stars. I want, like, those people I cherish. I deeply respect. They presented, like, I wanted to give them focus, and there were so many of them there. I didn't want to be a distraction. And also, I had my work is like stacked to the rafters. And I definitely regret not going, but you have to make difficult choices in your professional and personal life, and I had to make one. And that trip for me, I'm on the East Coast, and it's a long ways towards the end of the year, and I got some personal things coming up, trip wise, and just work stacking up, and that the week didn't work out. So I missed everybody's. Please send me your slide decks. Just thomasla@dpr.com. And for the second reason, I think if you know me, you know. If you know, you know. that week in particular, it takes so much out of me.
Yes.
I'm not the most social person, but you have to be at that event, and I get more out of what happens in the hallway than, and it's not to deride any of the content that happens in the sessions or on the main stage, but like I get more out of like the side conversations. I'm writing a freaking book because of a side conversation I had in the hallway, by the way. So, which is almost complete. It's like we're getting really close.
Okay. Which book is this? Is this the one with Brian or
Me and Brian. Oh man, and it goes
hard.
It goes hard. I guess we dropped the first chapter right here on this live stream.
Yes, sir.
We did it on a couple other pods, Felipe's and then Construction Veteran. We kind of tweaked the content to go with their version on their podcast, but that sets up that first chapter is the genesis, and it don't slow down. It's a woof. So. Kind of what we're going to talk about today is related to that. It's definitely, some of it's adapted to. So I just want to say I miss you. And then so if everything is bigger in Texas in 25, you better bring it. So hello, famous lady in Central. Is that Central Texas, right? DFW, Arlington.
DFW.
Better bring that Lone Star.
Come on.
So I just wanted to state that. Plus, I lived in San Diego for so long, and then there was a Navy SEAL on the main stage, and I have we used to hide Snickers bars in the rocks where they did buds training. I think the statutes of limitations is probably over now. for the naval special warfare trainers, but we used to hide Snickers bars and Ziploc containers in the rocks over by the Hotel del Coronado where they did boat portage.
Nice.
So we used to do that. So I don't know if they ever found it or not, but I'm sure they did. That nowadays they I know they had to get to it because nowadays they put cones out and they put you can't get close now when they do the rock portage. It's crazy. Those crews when they do. I don't know if anybody went over to Hotel del Coronado. So what they do, I'll just do it very briefly. They're like on this Zodiac boat, which is like an inflatable rubber boat. And they have to land this boat. They're like I think there's like 9 or 10 of them. And they have to like paddle towards these rocks. It's like a jetty of rocks right outside the Hotel Del. And they have to land it and they have to jump out and then they have to carry it all the way up and over these rocks. And it's like waves are crashing. It's so dangerous.
Yeah.
And if they screw up, and by the way, like the if they get like kind of wonky, the buds instructors, they like push them. They like tip their boat over. It's kind of cruel to watch, but I'm kind of into it. So we used to work downtown San Diego, and at night, if we found out there was a buds class going on, we'd sneak down there because we had that kind of spare time.
Of course.
This was almost 20 years ago now. And we'd go watch them. It was pretty fun. I used to like to do that. But I didn't want to get put in a headlock by the big guy on the stage because you saw him. That guy's huge, right? So
Maria Collins, what's up, sister?
So thank you. But what was your favorite I don't want to put you on the spot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Justin is cool. I got to work with him in Charlotte. He's a cool guy. I really appreciate Justin.
I think for me, the top thing was being able to see more and more of our people on stage. And when I say our people, I'm talking like the folks that are out there doing it. Got to see Justin, Tom, Seth, Lynn, Megan. I mean, there was just a bunch of people that I formed relationships with through the social media stuff, through the LinkedIn and everything. And it's gonna be me being judgy, but I could tell they were nervous, right? Like for me, being on stage is like, come on, baby, it's on. For them, they're like, I'm on stage, and like, maybe first time or they haven't done it a bunch of times, but just seeing that, like being able to be a witness to them being at the front of the room and delivering the message, delivering the value that they did, like that was my favorite part, to see people that I know are doing the stuff, and their perspective is a super practical perspective, not academic, theoretical, philosophical, but like for real. And so that was the ultimate for me. Like that's what a lot of times I'll go into presentations and they're very polished. I'll say they'll have that corporate polish, right? Where like, that 300 seconds of that presentation had to be describing what the company does, but it didn't really have to do that, but they did it anyways. So there wasn't a lot of that in the sessions that I went to, which to me was like, these people are just kind of coming, and they might get a talking to for not, waving the company flag, but they were focused on delivering value to the people in the room, which to me was the ultimate thing. So that was
awesome. Yes. That's the best. It's like, get that out of the way first. It's like that slide one. Okay, done. Get to the juicy part. Yes. And then share your templates live, not the PDF, like the real live one. Oh, yes. Because I was always the one. That's how I got to know Felipe. Was I was the one, I was like in the front row, like this, like with my elbows on the table. And then and Paz Arroyo, I get to work with her now. Like pinch me, by the way. And not just like work with, like I called her like for an hour and just chit chat. Like pinch me.
Stop bragging, Thomas. Stop bragging.
Okay, come work at DPR. You can have sidebar conversations with PhDs. I'm not bragging, but maybe royalty. That's how I should get on stage. Maybe me and Paz can.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's a guaranteed. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, Jennifer, I'm stepping up my game. All right. Should we talk about the book?
Yeah. I mean, because this is how much we've gotten.
Everybody's here for Peter Senji. Senji, by the way. I keep getting that wrong.
Yes.
Senji.
Yes.
Okay. I want to reiterate because we missed. Nobody could hear me last time. And the good people at Xfinity and Georgia Power worked right outside this window. There was a tree that fell on the overhead power line. They got it up in I'm in downtown Augusta right now, and they got this place back up within 4 days.
Nice.
And it was tore up. I mean, the president came by and several of the upcoming candidates as well, because it's a swing state. But this is an important thing, and the cool thing about linemen, people who work in those buckets, and those are construction workers, electrical workers, right? Yeah. Like all the politicians that do that, we need them because they divert the funds and they get the codes, pushed through Right? We need all that stuff. We do need that stuff. But the people that actually do the work, the front end workers that are put the cones out and get up and do those work, are construction workers. They actually do that work. And all that work, they got to pull that wire. And that wire
Oh yeah.
is not small. Yeah.
Yep.
And energize and get that energized. Is no joke, and I just want to that was appreciative to get back in up into just to get society back together. I mean, we can't have hospitals, we can't really function as a society in a big way, and me and you can't have these cool conversations over the interwebs reliably in high definition.
Yep. Well, and it's when we
yeah.
have kinds of natural disasters, it's the rare time that I get invited into people's homes because I'm a plumber. Hey,
Oh, yes. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Okay. So I brought that up because we're going to talk about delays.
Okay.
Okay. So you put it as the clickbait. But delays in systems thinking are different. They're different than the delays that we think about in construction. And I'm going to spend the next 90 minutes hopefully convincing everybody to not ever, I'm saying this repetitively to really reinforce.
Yeah.
Don't ever put punch list, inspection, anything into the schedule of those things those things that you put at the end of the schedule, TCO, correct punch. I can go on and on and on. If we do them all, heck, I probably have them on my project right now. All those things that I just explained, all those things are delays. Because if you why are you putting correct punch lists into your schedule? Why don't you just do the work right the first time and turn it over on time?
We got
Or even commissioning.
Okay.
Commissioning?
Yeah.
Very important, by the way. Very important to do. We need to do commissioning because these buildings are very complex that we do now. They're connected to the internet. They're controlled. They're really cool. There are all kinds of doodads, and I use that term a lot, but they're very complex sensors, and they make our buildings very efficient, and we can make buildings they can not even use energy because they can also generate electricity and energy from some of their systems. And we can be smart about that, but those systems are designed in the beginning, and it's just a theory. It's a scientific theory, and yes, maybe we've done it on other projects before, but we've never done it on this project with this exact system in this exact geographic location. So we have to test it, and so we have to put it through those commissioning steps. So all of those things, yes, there is a delay in that process, and we have to exploit that delay. So delays, not necessarily bad.
Okay.
You might think of it as a constraint or even a bottleneck. Perhaps Dr. Goldrat start to sneak in. Did we just link a previous collabo session to right now?
Did.
Okay.
Well,
So
yes,
go ahead.
Clyde says it's called do it right the first time and work on the throughput for the job, right? Isn't that one of those Herbie type vocabulary?
Yes.
Punch list
Yes.
is rework, which costs time and money.
So I imagine in San Diego, you've heard a lot about tack time, last planner system.
Yep.
My project has this really cool system or method, and we do visualization, or we have this you walked into that area, and they had all those software up on like giant projector or these huge or like the screens you could touch and manipulate. All of those things, all of those things were meant to help us manage our delays, and not only manage them but to exploit them, because when you can manipulate and touch those things, you can see the difference between current reality and the goal.
Yes.
And the burden in between them. And you can see the time and distance in between them.
Yeah.
So there is really no best system, and there really isn't any worse system. The enemy, like the CPM, so bad, the enemy is us.
Yes.
You got to look in the mirror.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the worst system is the one that burdens. That's the worst system. And the worst, like the worst of the worst system, is the worst system burdens somebody else, and they don't even have a choice.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
that's putting the iron skillet in Herbie's backpack,
Yeah.
and then putting another one in there, right? What do you got?
Well, I like that you point out, right? Like LPS, TACT, whatever else is coming down the pipe.
Oh, I love them all. I love
Right?
them all.
They're good.
Yeah.
And they can all be weaponized,
Oh yeah.
right? And who does the weaponization? We do. Like CPM even, right? It's when we weaponize the things, whatever they are, that it becomes, that it loses, I would say, that it loses its value. I mean, let's get as simple as freaking 5S. You can weaponize
Ooh
it.
yeah. Oh
Right?
yeah.
And when you weaponize it, you're not going to have you're going to miss the intended outcome. And it's, I don't know, does that count? Does weaponization of the systems, processes, does that qualify as a delay, Thomas?
Only if it burdens. Only if
Yeah.
there's a burden, right?
Well, and there is. We know there is, right?
If the 5S system takes an iron skillet out of people's backpacks, right? Because, oh wow, this system is organizing, or it's like, hey, this new garbage method where we have these things on wheels and we shoot things down the hoist, and it's like this new method. This is really cool and way better. And maybe we had to rearrange some line items in the budget, and that was hard for a project manager. They had to, make a tough call, and they had to get some approval internally, or maybe even with an owner saying, hey, I got to move some of these line items around. Like that was a burden for somebody. It was a burden for some person. They had to do something. But it shifted it, right? The shifting the burden. So this is Peter Senji talking now.
Yes.
Shifting burden.
Yes.
Right? So the burden never goes away.
Right.
But oftentimes what we do, and we were talking about this with mental wellness and even 5S, is number one, that problem is hidden. And number two, we don't look for it.
Right.
And if it's a hidden problem and we don't look for it, it'll never be found until it's a problem.
Until,
right?
Yes.
And that's called emergence.
Mm-hmm.
An emerging problem in the system thinking is like a roof leak.
Yes.
Or like I experienced today. It took me almost 2 hours to get from my house to the eastern part of Atlanta. I got Covington on the 20, and there's a section of I-20 where it's a construction zone. And it's like a bobsled run. It's a good run. It's like, I don't know, 12 miles with no exits, and there was 3 wrecks.
Oof.
So the enemy to all production, 5S, TACT, CPM, visualization, the Venn diagrams, all the things, right? prefabrication, modularization, like all of the things that you saw at LPS or at LCI this week. All of those things, it's overproduction.
Yes.
Right? So I'm sitting there in traffic today behind 3 wrecks. I don't even know how. I'm like, how are there 3 wrecks? How? And there's no way out, right? There's no way out. Like you can't even do it. And what overproduction leads to, and I saw this with my own eyes, and I've seen it before, but I was having some availability bias because, it happens. It's a real phenomenon. I've seen it in DFW. I've seen it in Oakland, California. I've seen it all over the place in the Midwest. I've seen it. Not sure if I've seen it internationally, but I probably haven't been watching. But there's ambulance. So think of gridlock traffic. Ambulance going down the shoulder, and it's construction zone, so the shoulder is like code minimum, because they require the reason why they require a shoulder is so a ambulance can shoot down the shoulder. That they make that contractor working on that section of road create a shoulder for that specific reason. So fire trucks and ambulances and police cars and tow trucks can go down that part of, if there's a problem, they can do that. And if somebody gets, has a flat tire, they can also pull off and get out of the way of traffic.
Right.
The worst thing happened though, behind that ambulance, people following.
Oh, yes.
Right? So overproduction leads to really bad behavior.
Yes.
Almost the worst behavior.
Yes.
Right? So go back to 5S now. That trash pile in the back 40 of the job site, right? That's kind of mixed trades. You got some insulation, you might got some cut off mixed up rebar. What else is over there? Some miscellaneous plumbing, like some PVC scraps.
Yep.
It becomes magnetic, right?
Yes.
All of it didn't just fall out of the sky, right? It all got placed there, but magically no one takes accountability for it, right? So that's not mine.
Like pallet in the middle of the
that pallet somehow drops in on it, gets
there's
smash it down.
Yeah.
It's really upsetting behavior, right? And it's like, hey, Thomas, GC, what are you gonna do about this trash pile? So what do you think about that? So overproduction leads to, and it's like, and this it's like the mother of all other waste. Yeah. But it leads to not only that, but it leads to like some of the worst behaviors in human behavior. And it goes downward from there. So I saw it today really bad. Like, really, you have to follow the ambulance?
Yes.
And it wasn't just one people; it was a whole train of people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just it happened in Atlanta, but I've seen it. I've seen it all over the place. South Florida, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so 2 points. I'm going to use Jennifer's comment, right? Is intentionally hiding problems to not have to own them. And so, the example from my life, back when I used to run work, if I did a poor job of planning and scheduling material or people, it's not a problem. We're just going to prefab hangers, or we're just going to prefab something. So it was overproduction because we didn't need to prefab the stupid hangers to hide problems. And the danger was I was convinced it was a good idea until we're demobilizing off the project, and I got pallets and pallets of extra hangers that we didn't even use, right? Like I couldn't see the negative impact it was having on my budget, or more importantly, I was convinced that I was doing a good job when there was a lot of room to improve. So I was hiding my problems in the overproduction. So it kind of veiled my shortcomings. I wasn't doing it on purpose at the time. But eventually I started doing it on purpose. And then the other thing, Maria said,
Maria.
if you bring weapons, I have to bring shields and both create burden, right? So if we come in and weaponize and overproduce blaming, that triggers a defensive response. And if that's not the worst case scenario, I mean, I guess besides somebody actually getting hurt on the project, when we I'll say it this way, if I overproduce my deflection of risk, I am creating a situation where people are going to be defensive and come from a litigious perspective that doesn't allow us to collaborate.
Yeah. No, I want to hear Megan Shapiro. Megan's got to weigh in here. There's always a better and smarter way to write yourself around a problem with 100%. Words, right? Does it ever, right? I've been there so many times when you're approaching a project and there are known constraints and you got, I don't want to pick on the type or the whatever. That don't matter, but you think you're smart and I can write like a scope really smart, right? Yep. And it's like, oh, I can just get them with this vague language. It doesn't solve the problem.
You're just exacerbating the problem.
Yeah. You know what would solve the problem? If you pointed at it and highlighted it and said, hey, this is an issue. Come with the 3 solutions or come with 3 holds. Hey, we have this is a problem. I want to put a hold on this budget. I think it's worth this. Maybe it's bigger, maybe it's less. But those often get really challenged a lot of the time. That's exactly it. Thank you so much, Maria, with the shield, because shield's also burden. Yes, 100%. Okay. Dang it, Peter's honest. So balancing feedback loops are constantly at work. No matter what, it's given. They're constantly at work, whether you like it or not. It just happens. The way it's a universal truth. Einstein has many theories that are proven scientific. So do many other physicists. There's a whole science called physics that proves that balancing feedback loops are like, they just work in the universe. And they're always striving for equilibrium. That's why I suffer. I mean, I've not even known when I was in college, and I suffered from panic disorder. I loved physics and mechanics of materials and thermodynamics. The reason why, a lot of it equals out. So it's and it's satisfying. It's like, ooh, like I can figure out this vector angle, and then I was like, oh man, it's satisfying when you can get it to equal out. And if we can get to chapter 6, we're going to talk about emotion, emotional tension, and when you actually resolve your emotional tension, you feel better. And if you're someone who suffers from a panic disorder and you feel better, you feel like a human being again. So why did I get so emotional about a physics problem? Is because it's I feel better at the end of it. It's I like this. So nowadays it's why do I really try to get into trying to resolve a parapet wall detail that it's you got metal panels and curtain wall, and it's got coping, and you got loops in with PVC roofing, and it's all complicated. Nobody wants to touch it. Everybody's been ignoring it since pre-con. It's oh, just make the roofer take care of that. Roofer's got 2 parts of it, right? So
right.
It's you got to dig into that head on. And everybody's all apathetic about it. Oh, we've been talking about this for 3 months. And it's who's got this detail? I'm this says by others. I'm did we hire by others construction? Don't worry, that's my side company. I have this side company. I'll be the most profitable. So, but those are great examples. So we have this. It's always trying to resolve itself. So by understanding those loops and their dynamics, you can better understand resistance to change. So if you understand that these things are always going to balance themselves out, and like it's kind of calming in a way. So and then on construction projects, they'll eventually get done. Sometimes they get stopped, but if you're working on a project that gets stopped, you'll just get assigned to a new one.
Yep.
Right? if you're a construction worker, I've been on projects that have gotten put on hold. You just go to another project. So it doesn't really affects you personally. It does make you stressed for a while because you got to go commute somewhere else it is stressful. I don't want to put that lightly, but not the end of the world. Like you eventually go get interested in another construction project, and your world starts to balance out. So they're constantly at work. So I gave an example last time of my blood pressure.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody heard. But high blood pressure runs. It runs in my family, and it's also known as hypertension.
Yeah.
I don't know if you don't have to divulge your health symptoms, but I do have it. But it's like a silent killer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes high blood pressure, this is high blood pressure, it has no noticeable symptoms.
Right.
You could be perfectly healthy and look like you got like 13% body fat, like look good. I don't have 13%, but I'm working on it. But But if you have high blood pressure, it significantly increases your risk of heart attack. It significantly increases your risk of stroke, kidney failure, eye damage, cognitive decline, vascular disease, dementia. All of these things run in my family. So I was like, if I have high blood pressure now and all of those other, health issues run in my family, like there's probably a good chance I'm heading down that path, and those aren't things I want to go down. So it's like, I got to kind of deal with that. Yeah. And the thing about high blood pressure, it's not purely genetic, right? Yep. There's also behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Behavior is not genetic. So you're not completely hosed by your parents, grandparents, and ancestors, and where you came from genetically. You do have some say in the matter, and your diet, your exercise, and your substances that you ingest play a factor.
You surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm. No, so that's another aspect is your environment. So your environment is like there could be like mold, right? Like you work in a trailer that's got like poor ventilation, and it's got the heat pump over there is like barely working. You're breathing in stuff. Your access to healthcare, like you could be in a foreign, like not in the United States, or even in the United States, you might not have great access to healthcare. You could have stress. Ever heard of stress? Stress triggers your amygdala, and that spikes your blood pressure big time.
Is that like the Abdullah Oblongata?
Yeah, that's part of your brain as well. Yeah. Chronic stress. So not just the old, like you watch a scary movie, or you get scared. You're in, like you get, whatever happens on a daily basis, but a chronic stress, like I'm constantly pressured at work, or I'm being bullied, or like those kind of things in your environment leading to high blood pressure. Sleep. I can go on and on and on and on. But here are the current events.
Oh, yes.
Do current events kind of play in? There's some serious current events right now. Probably not going away. So Peter Dr. Peter. Let's just call him Dr. Peter. He talks about interconnectedness.
Yep.
In chapter 5, and this is a great example of interconnectedness, that all of those things matter, that your environment, your stress level, the things you eat, the things you ingest, either consciously or like when you're sleeping and there's mold in your room because there's a roof leak, or your air conditioner is malfunctioning, or you live in not a great place, all contributes to your blood pressure. Everything does. Some of the things we can help with, like you can physically move or open a window or do those things. Some things you can't. Like some things in your environment you're fixed or you're stuck to because of family pressure or those things, and those all factor in. So when you hear like health officials talk about like health factors, that's what they're talking about. And it's easy to get kind of twisted up into like being lazy or those kind of things. And those certainly weigh in, but those aren't the only ones. Genetics also weigh in, like, oh man, like I got a whole family lineage of high blood pressure and obesity. Like, no doubt I do, but it's not a death sentence. I do have some say in the matter, and I can focus on those. So I can focus on my environment, my stress, my sleep. And so it's like, if you look at a pie chart of all of those interconnected things, your genetics is like one small thing.
Just a slice.
Yes. What do you think?
Man, here's what it makes me think of. Like, you were talking about blood pressure and those things. Knowing that there's balancing effects, right? And so change is not attractive to most people. And what I mean by that, I don't mean, like, I love change as long as it's everybody else changing. If it's me that has to change, then we gotta really have I'm going to be resistant. So the balancing response to some change is to resist it or reject it. And it wasn't until, man, we'll just say 10 years into my like continuous improvement obsession, that I was able to separate myself and understand that people aren't rejecting me, they're rejecting change. And it is a natural occurrence that I just need to expect and have countermeasures in place to deal with it. So there's that. And then in terms of,
yes,
let's say
you're teeing up the next section perfectly. Keep going. That? Yes. Oh, this is juicy. Yes.
I've talked to so many people. The common, one of those backdoor in the dark hallway conversations, like, Jess, like, I wish I could do what you do, but my leadership doesn't support me. The people at the office, they're against it. Nobody wants this. Everybody like, okay. So you're telling me that your conditions are less than ideal, but that doesn't mean you have a death sentence. There are all these other things in this pie chart that you can tweak and adjust, target, and focus to achieve the outcome that you're seeking. And so, and when they reject you or are resistant, it's a natural response. It's a balancing effect, and you just need to figure out how to cope with that. That's what it makes me think of. And Lance, my buddy Lance Furuyama, he says, I heard about a cool optimal outcome with Jesse at SFO. I think I told him the story.
That project is underway. Like it's going now. Your fingers are all over it. Now it's like,
I
Talk about a delay. Like that poll plan was
bro, that was
2018.
That was years ago.
And the action is now.
Wow, that's amazing.
So anyway, great gang. I know so many people. Those people who are like the project directors, they were like project engineers and PMs now. Oh man.
That's awesome.
That project team, I dearly like every one of them. I really love them. Like in like a deep way too. And I miss all of them. I need to fly out there and I need to take United so I can fly into Terminal 3. So I stay on the secured side and just go up to their office. Yeah, I'll knock on the door.
Nice.
I know which one it is. I probably still know the passcode.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I don't have the badge, so I can't get in. They'll let me in.
Yes.
But awesome. Thank you for teeing that up. So good. It's like we both read this book. So balancing loop, feedback loops. The issue, remember, it's like, oh, the freaking head office doesn't want me to do this, so I'm just going to give up. Like, don't give up. Don't give up. So it's like blood pressure. If I wanted to lower blood pressure, right? I can't just be like, I want my blood pressure to be lower, and it just tomorrow.
And it happened. Yeah.
No. Even if I'm eating salads for a week, right? And I'm hitting the gym, I'm getting good sleep, and I go in, I put the cuff on, and it doesn't move.
Yep. It's broken.
Or maybe it even goes up. It's like, what is this thing broken?
Yep.
That's a delay, right? Because it's like, I'm doing the things, Thomas.
Yep.
Or this is me talking to myself. It's like, what the heck? So you have to, all feedback loops have some form of delay. All of them.
Ooh.
All of them do. Some are quick, like the speedometer in your car.
Right.
Right.
It's short feedback.
Because there's a sensor probably to your tire, or maybe it's in your transmission, and there's a dial on your gauge, or maybe in your Tesla's on screen. But so we're talking delays. So all feedback processes have some form of delay. Period. Yeah. Even if it's a micro millisecond, it's still a delay. It's nothing is ever instantaneous. It's impossible. Often the delays, though, are either unrecognized. Like most delays, we don't even notice it. It doesn't even become conscious of it. Yep. This is the problem in construction, because we don't even notice the error that we make, or we miss something, or whatever it is, whatever the problem is, until we find it.
Yes.
The backing for the TV in the conference room, it didn't get installed, and we don't notice that backing doesn't get installed until you try to install the TV and it falls off the wall. It's like, yes. Oh crap. That backing was never there for 3 months, right? And so that delay was always from the time that you covered up that wall until you found it. That's 3 months long. That was a long delay. Yep. But that's not the entire delay. You still have another delay until you fix it.
Yep.
Right? So it's delay on delay on delay on delay.
Oh, yeah.
You have to recognize them.
Yes. Yes.
So in the book, recognizing delays, there's a visual cue in like a systems diagram. You want to draw a visual cue to a delay. If you're doing it in CPM, you would draw what do they call it? A fragnet. Or if you're in a pull plan, you draw the little Sharpie line. Yep. Right. Or whiteboard. Like you draw the link lines.
Yes.
Tacto would be your train.
Right.
or a buffer. No, a buffer would be different. Sorry, excuse me. I'm getting on sidetracked. But you got to have visual cue. It has to be visual. If you don't have a visual cue, you won't see it. I emphasize seeing it. So you have to draw the delay, and it's represented in a systems diagram as two short parallel lines across an arrow, like two lines across an arrow. That represents a delay. Eventually, when you trace that flow of influence, Peter Senge says, eventually it tells the story. It says, so his story, he gives the story, he's filling a glass of water.
Yep.
From a faucet. I'll try to pantomime.
Yep.
Let me get in here. So I'm holding a glass of water, and I'm filling a glass of water. It's actually a pretty dang complex system if you think about it. Right. So your eyeballs. There you go. Thank you. Oh, there you go, right there. I don't have to pantomime anymore. So you have the faucet. This is a plumbing problem, by the way, too. You got plumbing fixtures. Oh, yeah. So you can see the delay between, so you can see the curved gaps. So you can see the perceived gap. So you've seen your eyeballs. You're looking at both the faucet position, right? The position of the faucet and the current water level flowing up. And you see the water flow. So I turn on the faucet, which eventually changes the water flow. This helps it internalize the concept of the time lag. The delays, they can lead to overreaction, oscillation. Okay, you can pull it down now. So you do a lot of traveling.
Yes.
You do. I don't always stay in like 5-star hotels. Have you ever turned on a shower and then gotten scalded or frozen? Oh, you have people for that? So you turn on the faucet. This happens in my house. I haven't installed my fancy water cycling device. It's sitting in the basement. I need to get it hooked up. But there's a long distance between the water heater and my upstairs shower, so I have to wait for the hot water to go flow all the way through that pipe. And there's a column of water. It's probably 40 feet long, and it takes a long time for it to clear. It's a waste of water too, by the way. So there's a delay, and so I'll turn on the water and I'll adjust it, but you kind of have to guess. And you touch the water and it's cold. That's a delay. Yes, you can't like jump in and you freeze. I suppose you could be like, you work on your ice cold plunge. Yeah. I need to work on that anyways. But if you do that in Peter Senge's chapter here, sometimes you overreact.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So sometimes in the water thing, you turn it on if you've never used it before, and it like shoots out hard and it'll spray out, and then you like shut it back off, and then you got to like micro adjust it. Right? Does that ever happen in other aspects? So I just used 2 plumbing examples. Yes. Sometimes, you'll turn it on and then like I'll go watch TV for a while or play with my phone, look at Instagram or something while I'm just wasting water and natural gas while it's heating. Yes. What other overcorrections have you made?
So I'm going to throw this question at you while I answer.
Or perhaps people can type it into the chat.
Yeah, so folks out there, what overcorrections have you made in response to a delay, right? Because that's the issue that we're talking about.
So a known one we talked about, I'll prompt some people's emotions. Remember in 2021 when there was a shortage of toilet paper?
Toilet paper!
It was like, because everybody was suddenly working from home.
Yes.
And listen, toilet paper was made to supply commercial spaces, and there's only toilet paper meant to supply the residential spaces, and they make it to meet the demand. They don't have giant surplus. It's a very low margin business. It's paper. Right. And there's only so many suppliers, and we already talked about the beer game, so I'm not going to dive into supply chain.
Right.
but there was a major oscillation.
Spike in demand. Yep.
Yes, and it was a spike, and it led to some nasty behavior.
Ooh.
I will admit, I went to Costco and I loaded up, no doubt. And it led to some oscillation, and it led it to overreaction and hoarding of toilet paper, right? And then it was wiped out.
Yeah.
That was one. That was one example. It happened just a little bit ago down here. I think it happened in Texas too with the hurricane.
Oh yeah.
Recently, and I think there was a shortage of paper, and toilet paper got wiped out again. So did eggs and milk.
Yep.
And we were out of power. I don't know why people think they need eggs and milk that go bad without refrigerators, but
Right.
I guess they're making
Me some ham, some beans and rice. I said, let's go, baby. I'm good.
I guess you can cook it up real quick, but you still want to chill it.
Yes.
That's an overreaction. But then also, if you have oscillation, you miss opportunities.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It happens in construction. My construction is my project most important in the world. Oh, it's so important. It was in the newspaper. It might even be in E&R magazine.
Oh.
Maybe the governor came to listen. Governor McMaster's came to our, they turned the shovel over, South Carolina governor. Yeah. So I'm so important, right? Whoop-de-doo, right? In the grand scheme of things.
Right.
I'm not the only project. It is very large, and it's, I guess, kind of important, but not the only project in the world. But it is to me.
Yeah.
But let's say there's problems in the supply chain. I want to get in the top of the line for some of this really important, mechanical, electrical components. But maybe I missed some opportunities with coordinating the design by doing so, right? Because I was like, oh wait, we didn't even factor that in, and now we're kind of hosed on our capacity because this gear that we bought, it's fixed.
Right.
We're hosed. This generator it's max to the max.
Yep. So Jen has a question.
What do you got?
Jennifer Lacey says, so delays are necessary?
Necessary. In fact, you can exploit them.
Ooh.
Delays aren't necessarily bad. Delays are they are. They're not necessarily bad, not necessarily good. They just are. So if they are, you have to accept them. It's like high blood pressure, right? It's neither good nor bad. It's just, now this is the current condition. I have high blood pressure or whatever the situation is. It is. And now I can accept it. I'm missing a generator from Cummins. I want one really bad.
Right.
The lead time is 52 weeks. I hope it's not 54 now, right? But now it's okay, I now know I got a fixed date from Cummins, maybe it's Caterpillar, whoever. And now I know exactly, okay, you got a ship date. And now it's boom. I know that exact date. I can now exploit it.
Yeah.
And now I can work that in. It's what else can we do?
Right.
In front of that? Or it's what else do we need to support that? Or those kind of things, right? You gotta have an open mind. What do you got?
Yeah, I think
instead of having that scarcity syndrome,
Right.
we often have. Yes,
'Cause
we get oh damn, we're hosed now. The project delayed.
Yes. So that's it's kind of a question back to you, Tom. It's back in the day, when you got a delivery date that was not optimal or not what you wanted to hear, was your response to raise hell to get it to the date you wanted, when you could have spent all that other energy figuring out how to exploit that delay?
I wrote this note down. Let me pull it up.
Uh-oh.
You forget the reason. You forget the main reason you get into the problem, right? You're confronted with an issue, right? You just forget all the reason why you're working on this project, and you just get completely focused on the issue. You get into this endless cycle of problem solving, and you're like on a treadmill. It's like, oh, do we need to change the manufacturer? Do we blah 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 blah? Like you just
email. Do you know anybody?
yes, like we just gotta let's email the CEO. Let's like right.
Yep.
And certainly we need to escalate, right? We need to definitely try to do root cause analysis, like do those kind of things, because those things sometimes we can work out a solution or find an opportunity in there to certainly do that. But like Peter Senge, Dr. Peter says, missing opportunities is worse. It's worse because if you devote all your energy onto like trying to like blow up the CEO or write a delay letter.
Right. Yes.
So I'll use this example, and you're a mechanical trade, so you'll really appreciate this. It's like your thermometer. So right now in the Southeast, we're kind of getting to the part of season where you're changing from air conditioning to heat.
Yep.
And even some days you're like, you do both.
Well, yep.
Like you're flipping back at night. Sometimes you do a heat. And then so sometimes you come in and your house is cold.
Yes.
And really cold. Or maybe it's like really hot and it's like, oh, I need to cool down. I got to cool the space down. And it's like, I need to cool the space down really fast. It's hot in here. So I set my thermostat.
All the way down.
I'm going to set 60, like, well, no, 56, you know?
Yeah.
Your ability to cool your house or your apartment down, right? It's fixed. It's fixed to your system's capacity, whatever tonnage and efficiency of your unit, however you maintain it and clean out your filter and you know how well you do the things you're supposed to do. How all those interconnected things that we were talking about earlier, like how well you do that mattered. Yelling at your thermostat, getting mad at it, writing your mechanical trade a nasty email, like leaving them 0 stars on Angie's List, bribing, like it's Nest, so like trying to bribe Google to cool your house, like sending Google like a Venmo or Cash App, say, hey, cool my house down faster. I will give you more money. I will pay you thousands of dollars to cool my apartment down faster. Elon Musk couldn't even do it, right? Your capacity, even if you got that mechanical trade to come out, what will they do? They'll turn it off to safely maintain your system, right? So it'll take even longer. So the delay is built in. What you should have done is looked at the forecast the day before, or be patient, right?
Right. Yeah. You'll be all right.
But does that make you feel better?
No,
being patient, right? But that's a great example of delays, like all of the things that we want to do, just that emotional things, like, oh, I'm just mad at my thermostat, just cool it down, and opening windows might help, perhaps, maybe not if it's hot outside, because it won't help with the cooling. So you just got to be patient. And Peter Dr. Peter, he says the importance of patience is key, because it resists the urge to overreact.
Yes.
So when you're confronted with that bad news, saying, oh, it's not 54 weeks, Thomas, for your generator, it's 58. You just took a 4-week delta, right? It's like, ouch, ooh, energization date just kind of slid a little bit.
everything. Oh, God, yeah.
Ooh, right? Like, ow. Like, not great. Can we study what that does?
Right.
Right? Like,
Let's understand the impact.
right? Like, what? It's okay. Do we need generator to do permanent power? Maybe not. Let's
Right.
let's find out.
Right.
Right? Let's study.
Yes.
Maybe we can bring in some other. Who knows? Right? You can start to get the
temporary-
creative juices flowing
Yes.
if you resist that urge, but you gotta have patience.
Yep.
You gotta have that patience, and that is personal mastery, right? That's chapter 6. But when you're confronted with delays in that feedback loop, you have to. Dr. Peter says the important of patience is having long-term perspective. You got to look past that initial delay and saying, if I overreact right now, we might miss an opportunity, and that'll make this 4-week hit
Yeah.
12 weeks, because we'll freak out
Yeah.
and make some kind of crazy overreaction, like try to change manufacturers, and instead of 58 weeks,
Yeah.
it's like 100 or worse. Like,
Right.
we'll try to change manufacturers midstream, or try to go to like some do a trade-off.
Yeah.
And we'll find, we found this other manufacturer, but it doesn't have all the same, doodads and sensors on it. But, it kind of works, but it doesn't match, like it doesn't have all the, the clean air requirements. So instead of lead gold, we're going to get lead silver now. Can we get permission to do that?
Right.
Right? Then you start making those trade-offs.
Yeah.
And that happens. It happens a lot. That's a real world thing, but you miss that long-term perspective if you overreact. And it happens a lot. And it's not me talking. This is Dr. Peter here, but it's certainly it's good advice to take. So resist that urge to overreact to a delay. And the delay is not just like the bad news. Sometimes it's just the when you find out, there's an issue, and then there was a gap of time, and then you've now confronted with an emerging problem.
Yep.
Don't overreact, because overreacting leads to missed opportunities.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, 2 points. One, Jen, right? She says change, problem solving, continuous improvement all requires us to slow down if we want to evaluate and understand what a sustainable change looks like. The resistance is many times in that space when it's necessary to improve a process. So slow down. Right? Same thing, right? Have patience. Don't overreact, because you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to be blinded by emotion, and you are at risk of making decisions that will compound the delay, compound the loss. The other point I have, Thomas, is I found the fastest way to solve a problem, any problem. You know what it is?
What you got?
Decide that it's not a problem. Right? Like whatever that presenting issue is, I can decide that it's not a problem. And if that's the case, it's solved, and I can go focus my effort and energy on other problems instead of being distracted by this presenting issue that I'm deciding is a problem.
You're talking about a shift of the mind. Chapter 5. You want to segue?
I got back up from Maria.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly it. When you can do that, that's what we pay these very expensive consultants to do, is help us climb out of our own bullshit.
Yep.
Because why do we need Jesse Hernandez to come in and like,
why are you fighting?
Look, dummy, like, why are you guys fighting about this stuff? It's because like we're like this and we can't see. because we're so piled in emotional tension, and now you want to talk about like one missed opportunity, they start to pile up. And you miss on a miss on a miss on a miss on a miss. And I've worked on projects where it's like how did we even get here? And if you remember, if you go back to like the earlier chapters, the boiled frog parable, this is the boiled frog. Like you're like, all of these missed opportunities, it's because we way overreacted to these really kind of minor delays. They're just minor crises. Just like, oh, we freaked out because we had to get the foundation in because the schedule said we didn't want to miss the schedule. Oh, we had to get this in, but then we screwed up the layout of the anchor bolts. And then we had to tear it out, and we had to go get a structural engineer to get us a fix. And then the fix was really hard.
Invasive.
It's like, what are you like this like super strict like epoxy detail? It takes forever and all these crazy inspections. Like, come on, man. Like, right, because of what do you think? Like the structural engineer is now overreacting because they think they can't trust us because they think we're a bunch of cowboys. Like everybody is way overreacting. Everybody gets in their corner now.
Yep.
So we gotta have long-term perspective. So like that part of the specification that says, oh, the pre-installation conference. It's like, what is this all about? Let's skip that. We got time for that. We got stuff to do. Like, no, like actually get people together and like actually talk about it. And it's like, hey, is this mixed design actually approved? No. And this concrete pour is a no-go.
Right.
Don't miss an opportunity.
Right.
And that resists our urge. And it's like, that's the system thinking. Right there. It's like, no mixed design approved. I don't even care if your schedule says pour concrete. It's a no-go. And that's the hard one. That's the hard decision because it's like, I got 30 carpenters and 40 laborers and a pump truck and a tower crane, and we're burning daylight time, and GCs are like plumbers are right behind them, and we're now 200K in the hole. I'm waiting on you're going to tell me we're waiting on a mix design? I was like, well, what happened? I was like, we forgot to submit it. He's like, it don't matter, go. Right? And then these problems, these are real world problems that actually happen.
Yep.
And that's the importance of patience.
So, question on that, and Jess puts this out there. Jennifer says, is stabilization a necessary delay for change? And so I guess the first thing I want to say is, what I'm understanding delay, if I like to take the negative context off of it, a delay is what happens when it's not instantaneous. If I don't have an instantaneous condition, I have a delayed condition. And so it's not a negative or a bad thing, right? But in terms of stabilization being necessary for change, I think yes. So like in this framing of it being a delay, meaning I'm a ravenous, psychotic, obsessive person about improving and getting better in personal growth. But if I never stop, which could fit the frame of delay, if I never stop to let that change and improvement and growth stabilize, I'm on a weak foundation. So if I think about that organizationally, when a company is going through rapid, massive change, that for whatever reason we get like seduced by, look at how much more we can do. Look at all the tools. Oh, it's so awesome. And we don't build in a stabilization period. All of that awesome, sexy, massive growth is at risk of dissolving and the tower toppling over. So to Jennifer's question, I'd say yes, stabilization is a necessary thing for durable change. It like feel like a delay, but to her second point is, why don't we create, like, account for the delay in the design of the system? How did she do, Jen? I mean,
She's so
Tommy,
smart. That's why she's
right?
so famous. That's why she gets to stand up on the big stage, and I get
Yeah,
to do
yeah. We
my
get the
thing.
little back of
I
the
get,
barn rooms.
I get the alternate
Yeah,
presentation next to the coffee machine. Yeah,
yeah.
it's fine. I'll do it. I do it anyways. But it happens a lot. I'll say it this: if what Jennifer is describing is it's a balancing loop, right? So the balancing loop is the stabilization step. If you skip the stabilization step, we often do, things get covered up or buried, like or missed. And any scope, I'll let you pick one, and I'll try to give an example. So that way I don't have bias.
That's
Hopefully
ceiling
you can
tile.
pick it. Okay, that's an easy one. That's so easy. Above ceiling, right?
Overhead.
And
Yep.
then so rough-in is everything, everything. And not only is rough-in everything and above ceiling is everything, but putting everything up there completely is important, including all of the things that are not shown on the drawings. What I mean by that is all the owner stuff, their audiovisual equipment, all the security stuff, all of the fire stopping, all of the cameras and the networking devices, all of the things, all of it has to go up there. Whether it's the our scope or the owner scope or I worked with Justin. He was the core and shell
Yep.
contractor, not even related. We had completely separate contracts. We were just basically we became friends. That was it. Basically we were intended to be competitors, I guess.
Right.
So we just had to communicate, but all of it has to go up, everything, 100% of it. Not 85% of it and then the punch list, right? Everything's got to go up there. So if anything is missing above a ceiling tile,
Fail.
you have to take it down.
Yes.
And the thing about ceiling tile, really fragile. Even if you look at it wrong.
Yes. Yes. Fingerprints and
Ceiling. We have many ceiling tile installers that work at DPR. They are like artists. I don't even know how they do it. They're so fast at it too. They can look at it and they're like, and then just drop it in. These polygon shapes, how do you even? This is like sorcery, like that. Advanced, trigonometry. How did you even get to that angle? And so if there's an initial, just one quality problem, call it quality.
Yeah.
One initial quality problem, that's a delay. Because it's up there, or it might not be up there. It might be missing, and whatever the sensor is could be in a warehouse in Kentucky, and we're in Georgia. And it's that delay is a long ways away. And so that initial issue creates a gap, and that gap is that's miles away, but it's heading our way. That sensor and the wires connecting it need to happen, and it creates a gap, and it creates the gap from the design of that system and its final construction.
Yes.
The delay and the rework, then, because you have the initial gap, and now you have to do rework. Now you got to move the ceiling tile over, and right.
Yep.
And now you've increased the cost.
Yes.
Even if the owner doesn't see it, right? Even if we don't hand the owner a bigger bill, you've increased the cost of the project, no matter what, because either the trade contractor absorbs that cost, either directly or indirectly, or we, the general contractor, will absorb the cost.
Right.
And not only that, like that issue, people have to coordinate it, like have to go, oh, we installed the ceiling tile. It's that one right there. And somebody has to walk over and show somebody, okay, this needs to move. And like, that's all people's time and effort. And it's like up on the 30th floor. So we have to get an elevator and walk up there. It takes a bunch of time. Yeah. It increased the cost for everybody. Yeah. Not only to that, it creates the potential for more than one error.
Yes.
Because you smudge it. You're like, because then you're like, you get up. And Clyde's talking about security.
Yep.
Right? Because they go up above the ceiling and they're like up in the waist because they got to get up. Sometimes the deck height is like 14 feet and the ceiling is at, let's call it 9.
Yep.
Right? That's a gap. Right? That's like a waist.
Safety.
Yeah, it's dangerous too.
Yes. Poorly lit. Like.
Yeah.
Bad situation.
That's some of the worst. Like you do the hard work studies. That's some of the worst, most dangerous work we put people into. We talk about like, why do people commit suicide in construction? It's because they have to work in that shit. Like, oh, you've ever done like rework in buildings that have, like are from the 70s? You go above ceiling, ooh, like the Rat Highway.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about air quality? Oh, man. Woo. I've been in, like, hospitals, ICUs. And you're like, what in the heck has been going on in here? I won't name names, but, oh, my God. So that has an impact. That not only is it increasing the cost of the work, it is impacting morale now.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm laughing, but, like it's real. It impacts morale. Clyde is just right. He knows like this is the PTSD we all deal with, and this is just above ceiling, and it's like sharp and pokey, and you have to take your hard hat off, right? It's dark up there. There's no lights, and this is all hidden work most of the time because you're like. Sometimes it's in after hours. Don't do this. This is like. We don't want to see you. We don't want to hear you. I've done this work at 2:00 in the morning. Yep. You sneak in and sneak out. You vacuum behind yourselves. Like I've run the vacuum myself.
Yep.
And then it's like impacting morale. So it's like you really don't want to do this work. And then it spirals down. So people get lazy. And then there's reputational damage.
Yes.
Because somebody's going to make a mistake. No doubt. Somebody's going to make a mistake. It's almost impossible not to, right?
Right.
Oh, man, you triggered me so hard with that one.
It's Clyde's fault. Look, Clyde's
Yes.
I thought ceiling tile was going to be easy. That's why I threw it out there. It was too easy.
I had a cheat sheet teed up, but I didn't have one for ceiling tile. But that's why I'm like looking over here. But the takeaway, early detection of issues up there before you drop ceiling tile. Walk the owner down it. Walk security. Walk AV. Everybody. Guess what me and Justin used to do? We walk not only with our owner. We walk with Lincoln Harris, right? Melody, I think her name was. They were super nice. And like you'd think we would be arguing with each other. Those walks were like the most. I got more information in those walks than we did looking at their schedule. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, and it wasn't about like I'm trying to get like insider information or trying to get one over on it. I was just trying to like learn what's happening so we can adjust like current reality. Yes. And the reason why I wanted to learn what's current reality is so we could adjust.
Right.
We can adjust to make their work as much as possible. It wasn't a perfect world, but as much as possible, less burdensome. It's like, okay, if we needed to hold off starting a new floor because we're working in a high rise in Charlotte, if we could hold off for another week, one more week, does it really hurt us?
Right.
Maybe, but if you knew you had one more week, it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
It's like, Justin, I'm gonna give you guys one more week. What can you exploit in that week? And it'd be like, because you normally it'd be like, get out of the way. You have to come back and work through all of our maze of interior like walls now and make everything really hard on them, and do all your sprinkler pipes or whatever the thing that they were behind on. And not that it was bad or good, it just was.
Yep.
That's the key takeaway, is like the more early you can identify those things and be real with it, the more you can correct it. And if you can correct it and identify it, you can address it. So then all of a sudden it's like you have to go look for those things.
Yes.
And if you have to go look for those things and you write them down, and if you write those things down and you assign QA QC issues in Procore or Autodesk Build or PlaneGrid, like all the other blue and the orange and the red or whatever flavor that you use, those aren't bad things. They just are. And if you can knock those out before you come to that milestone thing, like identify those early, knock them all out, and then do it. Don't wait until the end and then go looking for them. Like, hey, we finished the ceiling grid. Let's do an above ceiling inspection. Then it's too late.
Yeah.
So I posted on your LinkedIn a Deming quote. It said, "Don't rely on inspection."
Yes.
Remember, because you were talking about feedback on your morning hug.
Yep,
That's feedback, right? So don't wait on inspection. So don't wait for feedback to make adjustments. So you said, you wrote back and said, "Oh, I should be reading the crowd." I'm like, hell yeah, you should be reading the crowd. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, should be doing it live. Do it live.
Yes.
There you go. What do you think? What do you think about that?
The feedback thing, I think here's two big rocks when it comes to feedback. One, I'm always tinkering in my head, and this is more around like personal feedback, not personal, but like just me, the Jesse system, Jesse land. I'm always trying to figure out how can I shorten up that feedback loop, meaning how can I minimize that delay as much as possible. The other side of that is what I think I've found is the best way for me to tighten or minimize that delay as much as possible is to get precise on what feedback I want. So for example, like kind of the little dialogue we had on my LinkedIn post today, when I'm doing a presentation or doing some facilitation or training, I want feedback on, I like general feedback, but there's always 2 or 3 things that's new that I made an adjustment to for a specific outcome. And when I know the specific outcome I'm working to achieve, I can gather feedback almost instantaneously by watching the response of the people. But if I'm not clear and precise about what I'm trying to achieve, that feedback is maybe muddy and the delay is extended. And so if I take that, stop being selfish and not just think about myself, but think about building a team or a project or a new initiative or whatever it is, when we're precise about the intended outcome, those feedback loops gets tighter. The intel that is provided in those feedback loops becomes more actionable, which helps me manage my emotion to delays.
Yeah.
What do you think about that one?
That's awesome. Okay, we're going to do chapter 5 right now. I love that. That's why I keep coming back on your pod. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I have an idea for the next book if we ever finish this one. It's New Economics
Yeah. Yeah.
by W. Edwards Deming. Maybe we'll do that in
Oh,
2020,
that sounds heavy.
2025, 26 perhaps. Jeez.
Yeah.
But I want to give everyone listening immediate takeaway that you can do from chapter 4 on kind of feedback loops, reinforcing loops, and delays. So let me clear my throat. So let's say you're confronted with feedback loop. What you want to do is set it roughly. Just rough set something. Just take action and rough set it. Like the thermostat, rough set that thing on 72 and wait. That's the patient thing, right? And it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but you have to rough set something and wait. And it's in everything that we do. It's one thing. It's like the thing I do most every single day on the project I work on, and even in my previous role as a regional manager.
Yep.
I stepped out of a regional role and now I'm on a mega project, but soon I will be back. I hope. Hopefully I'm not on a
You'll be back. You'll be back.
I'm not on a mega. We'll see. But but like try to see the feedback, whatever your targeted outcome that you want, rough set it. Be like, hey, okay, so here's we've done some study. Do it rapidly. Get collaboration. Don't freak out. Do a rough study and set the target and take action. Jocko stood on a stage and told everybody that, like, cover, move, right? Yeah. Cover, move.
Yes.
And that's how effectively it worked in Ramadi. Very effectively in a very chaotic situation. When the stakes are the most high, right? Like life and death.
Yep.
And it's just like in the real world that we work in, our stakes are very high too. We work at very stressful situations, and we work at very risky situations, right? So rough set something. So if it's a production issue, scheduling issue, safety problem, whatever the situation that needs to be adjusted, changed, whatever you want to call it, rough set it. Just see, this is the current reality. Understand that. Once you kind of get a grasp of it, rough set it. Be like, we want to be here. We want it here. Go. Take action. Once you go, you take that first step, watch. You have to observe. You can't go and then walk away. Everybody makes that mistake. Everybody makes that mistake.
Yes.
The walking away part is the easy thing to do. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. It's so easy to do. It was the walking away part. That's the hardest thing not to do. You have to observe. You have to do it very keenly. It could be a layout issue. It could be whatever it is. You have to stick with it. And that takes really a lot of patience. And honestly, it takes like emotional intelligence. If you can't not walk away, you're working with like very like poor, like I hate saying childish people, but like they're not emotional intelligent people, and you have to use different tactics. But if you work with a good gang of people, most people do. Like the people in my company, like I'm not saying like DPR, I'm saying like people I surround myself with.
Yep.
Dang good gang of people, right? So you gotta rough set it, and once you take that step, even if it's the wrong step, you can immediately pivot. Right? Yes. Even if it's the wrong step, you can immediately pivot because you're watching. Be like, okay, all right, adjust. Now you can make fine tune, right? You can fine tune it.
Yes.
Don't seek perfection out of the gate.
Thank you.
That's what we always try to do. We try to have these like long drawn out root cause analysis, and like we have these like 45-page corrective action. No one ever reads those.
Yeah.
And it takes like 3 weeks to like even gather all the people together, and we need principals of companies to come in. Like, okay, still do that. We probably still need to do that if it's a serious enough situation. But if you've already rough set something and like taken action and made already like 3 fine tunes, by the time that meeting actually happens, you can like show up with some data,
Yes.
right? And actually can have an intelligent conversation. And probably like if you got a drone video, or even like get up high and take some photographs with your cell phone. Man, that's super powerful stuff. So like most of what I've just told you is absolutely free. It requires no really methods. You can use a lot of methods that Jesse teaches. They're all over the internet. You can go out there and do.
Right.
But my method is like, shut your damn mouth and listen. That's step 1. And 2, stand still and look.
Yes.
If you do those 2 steps, and both, then that's the observing piece.
Right. Right.
I should patent this, but
Yes.
if you can do that observation piece and not walk away, you can make those fine-tuned adjustments and make corrective actions immediately, and then just keep doing it, adjust, and then just keep moving. And that's cover and move. Or that's Dr. Deming. He says, don't wait on, like after inspection. So don't put your QA/QC people at the end of the assembly line. Put them in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. That's what Toyota does. Tesla puts them like out in the parking lot.
Yep.
That's why they have lots of issues with their at their Texas plant with the Cybertruck, and they're dealing with that right now. There's a lot of issues doing with that. It's really cool. It's a lot of that. Manufacturing things that we can learn from that. And how do we apply that? Like we're basically doing similar things with manufacturing. The assembly line though is not a conveyor belt. The assembly line is our work boots. Like we move towards the work.
Yep.
And then we move away from the work, and the next trade moves towards the work. So if we can keep making those fine-tune adjustments, once we level set it and we can do that, that's how you make tremendous change. Let's do chapter 5.
Yes. So are we jumping to chapter 5 or chapter 6 next call?
Chapter 6 next call. Chapter 5,
Okay.
it's a shift of mind, and I think I can do it pretty quick.
Nice.
Chapter 6 is going to take, it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that's where we get into the archetypes.
Yes. That's like a $10,000 word right there. Archetypes.
Oh, baby.
First takeaway.
Daryl.
What do you got? Daryl.
Yeah, he says proactive, rough setting, don't delay, waiting for perfection. Bam. He's going to use that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing like land development, you know how they use the big giant machines, the belly scrapers first, right? And then they'll use a bulldozer with a flat blade, and then they'll use like a smaller bulldozer. You notice they're like fine tuning, and then the bulldozer keep getting smaller. Maybe they have a roller. Yep. And then the rollers get smaller, and then they'll use like maybe a skid steer. Like the equipment keeps getting smaller and smaller. They're fine tuning, and the grade checking. They go from like they use the big ruler. It's like I think they call it a story stick. Yeah. And then they get down and then they'll start using like calibrated equipment, like a total station, to really fine tune their They're grade checking. They won't use it in the beginning. They don't need it. They just rough checking, right? It takes too long to do all that fine tuning just to set up their instruments. So go check out some Dirt World guys.
Yes,
they know how to do it. If you need an example,
that's a good example. Yeah.
Just or a farmer even while you're driving to work. If you're in a rural area, they know how to turn the earth. So chapter 5, I have a few here, and then I want your reaction.
Let's go.
It's a shift of mind.
Yes.
So first thing you have to do when you shift your mind, remember we were talking about like I want my blood pressure to go down. You have to accept it. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Because when you accept that I'm an alcoholic,
yep.
I have a sleeping disorder, I have a panic disorder, you have to look in the mirror. And it's like, it's hard, really hard. And your brain is so powerful, it tricks your body.
Oh, yeah.
And in groups, it's worse. Groups, or in your family, because things get reinforced. So, like, what I'm telling people is like when you try to shift your mind, Maria was like, bring a shield. You better bring a shield. You better bring some weapons too. Because your defenses have to be up, because you'll get attacked by not only your, and it's not like people don't do this consciously, right. But if scroll through Instagram, like people like trying to work out and they like and they're not like perfect Instagram model shape, people like crap on there, like go to the comments, oh my God, nasty comments. But like you have to accept yourself as you are if you're just doing personal improvement, right? That's the hardest thing. Remember I was talking about patience, because remember if you're going to do any type of improvement, you have to do acceptance. And Dr. Peter he says shift from linear thinking to circular thinking. So I recently lost 80 pounds. Woo! And in actually it's more than that lately, but the first 20 pounds happened in the 6 months. The next 20 pounds took like 16. And the 6 months after I lost 20 pounds, plus 2.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck? Like, what the heck? So like if you plotted that like on a, and there's all kinds of apps that help you plot I have a scale I stand on every morning and it plots it. Yep. It don't look like a nice curve. And luckily I also have my, my friend here to guide me. So I shifted my thinking. Like, how did I lose 80 pounds? System thinking, because I accepted, one, okay, well, if I weigh this much and I don't want to weigh that much, then I have to accept that I weigh that much right now. This is who I am. But all of these factors, even though I have some genetic factors, I do have some environmental factors and I have some behavior factors I can change.
Yes.
And I did. And I got some help along the way. So some of my environmental factors I wasn't in complete control of because my brain was stronger than my body. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that I'm a weak person or I'm not strong-willed. It's not about that.
Right.
And so you have to shift. If you're going to shift your mind, you have to also shift the way you think. It's not, I'm going to go from A to B. I have to shift my mind. So what Peter says is the goal is the journey. It's not the destination, right?
Yes.
That when if you want to get somewhere, it sucks, right? Yes. It's not a journey. Like, get out of here with that. Like, if you're watching a YouTube video and you see somebody like building a cabin, you just like scroll to the end. You want to see when they finish.
Yep.
What do you think? What do you think about shifting linear thinking to circular thinking?
I think I think this. It takes practice, but once you get there, the world looks entirely different, right? And so what I mean by that is like starting my business. Right now, I have people to turn on the water and check the temperature to make sure it's exactly 78.2 degrees before I get in it. But if I still subscribe to linear thinking, every conversation I had with the prospective client that wasn't a yes at the end of the conversation, I would have seen that as a failure. And I would have lost momentum, and I would have lost steam. I would have got frustrated. I would have got irritated. Because that's linear thinking, right? We have a conversation, next step is make the transaction, make the deal. But I had to shift my thinking to understand that it doesn't happen that way, right? Like it's a series of communications until that person is ready and recognizes me as the best solution that they have access to. And the way to do that is to maintain contact and build the relationship and learn more, better understand what their problems are, etc., and even refer my competitors if they're the better option. And so I have a couple stories where when we first started the conversation 2 years ago, it was I wasn't the right guy for them. Fast forward though, the conditions, and they made certain things happen in such a way that now I'm the right guy for them. And so if I had linear thinking, I would have severed the relationship because we didn't close the deal after the first conversation because I suck and I shouldn't have a business. Instead of understanding, kind of like the weight loss example, it's the action steps that are the journey. And so the more action steps, the just do the damn thing steps that are a part of that sales cycle, I just got to do more of them. And that same thing with losing weight. Stepping on the scale is not what helps me lose weight. What helps me lose weight is sleep, nutrition, exercise. So I got to do those damn things in the right frequency and the right intensity to produce the outcome I want.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll do all of the right things and the scale will tell me something different because maybe I had too much salt, or maybe because I hadn't slept enough. So cortisol's built up, I retain more water, my weight, there's so many things that with linear thinking will help me to quit and disengage. Whereas that circular thinking is okay, sure. And let's try it again. And let's try it again. And let's try it again and see what the outcome is. Okay, this produces this outcome. Keep doing it because this is what I want. This produces not what I want. Stop doing it. How do I tweak it and adjust it? And so that's where it comes to, for me, that's the awakening, is the shift of it's not determinative. It's just going to make me go slower or faster. It's not going to end the ride in a positive or negative way. It's just going to speed me up or slow me down. Am I headed to a particular point? No, but I'm headed in a direction. And knowing that I'm in that direction and on that path is all I need to know to continue moving forward. Yeah,
very, very important. If you're doing tact planning, when you overlay your zones, good. The next step is you figure out work direction. And trades work in different directions. Not everybody's everybody's going to work this floor in a loop. No.
Right.
Fundamentally I get it. Everybody's going to work in a sprinkler. They work their mains and then they do the branch, right? And then the HVAC duct, you start at your medium pressure and you work your way out. And that might be the complete opposite work direction, right?
Yep.
So you have to overlay work direction. So you can't just look at a schedule
right
over your zone map and
Right,
think,
right.
oh, we got the tack train now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just have my beautiful, my waterfall colors, and I got my map over here, and I'm like, we're doing it, right? Like, yeah, but like all your work directions are all crisscross.
Right.
So you got to do the Ghostbusters test. Don't cross the streams, right?
Yeah, I like that.
So shift your thinking from linear to circular. So you have to also consider how people like work. You have to, and how do you consider how people work? You either ask them, like, hey, how do you work? Like, hey, Jim, sprinkler fitter, what's your first step? Okay, I start at the main. Where's your main? It's over here in this corner. That's not zone 1. Well, sorry.
That's where I start. Right.
That's where I start. Well, you can't start there. That's not that's not zone 1. So you have to start with your branch over here. like no. So you have to ask. So you have to shift your mind. And that might mean we have to kind of rethink our zone map a little bit, or maybe we have to change the colors, and that's okay.
Yep.
And that's shifting from linear thinking to circular thinking. That when we do that, we might have to tear down some laminated posters on the wall and reprint them.
Yeah. Another thing just occurred to me.
And that's a feedback loop. Yeah, what do you got?
Linear thinking is binary, yes or no, pass, fail. Circular thinking is yes and. What do you think about that?
Yes, because it's the interdependence.
Yep.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Because if you think roofing is not just flat. It considers the plumber. It considers the electricians up there. Sometimes there's components. There's an air handler, most definitely. There's definitely mechanical components. There's a duct or some louvers or something. There's definitely an external, like wall. If you're building a building, there's something, usually some structural components up there, right? So there's not just a roof as a roof. A roof it's a complete system.
Right.
And the roof is not complete until all of those systems work together.
Right.
Because if one of those systems is higher than the other and it traps water, because it's it doesn't it traps the water, and that water just stays stagnant. Eventually that water is the best solvent in the world. It's the most powerful solvent in the universe, I think. If you don't believe me, go to Arizona and look at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Right? It's miles deep. It just takes time. And so all just in a roofing system, all of those things have to function together, whether they're coordinated or not. And if they're not coordinated, then they won't function. So yeah, right. That's 100%. So you have to shift your mind in a circular way, or there'll be problems. So whether you like it or not, whether the design is complete or if it's not complete, and if the design is not complete, it's not good nor bad. It just is, and right. So we have to complete it. Otherwise, we won't ever be done. It's just the current condition. The second takeaway in chapter 5 is, we already talked about, is delays matter. Right? They really do. Remember, sometimes we don't even think about delays, because sometimes it's it's not there and we don't think about it. It's like the security, the little orange cable that we don't even think about. It needs to go up there, but we just missed it. And that needs to go up there, and that destroys all our ceiling tile. But those really matter, because why? Because it causes overreaction, it causes oscillation, it causes all that instability. It's just like the you go to the hotel and you turn on your water and it's cold.
Yep.
It's the same behavior. Delays really matter. So, and then if you're thinking circular, and now you think about delays, if you're thinking work direction, and it's like, hey, when we work in this area and we have to do this overhead work, what's going on with low voltage. What's happening with low voltage? Well, they're not completely done with this package. Let's make this stable. Can we can we do a leave out? Like, ask questions.
Right.
We can be proactive with that. What do you think about delays? Delays, they really matter. They really do.
Yeah. No, I think,
and they always get skipped.
I think what's important, or what I'm chewing on around delays, is like, how can I communicate that in such a way that we remove the negative context that we assign to the word delay? Because you hear delay, and I'm thinking contractual violation, somebody's going to get penalized because they had a delay impact to the schedule or to the project delivery. That's all. Yes, that's a delay, but in this world that we're talking about of systems thinking, delays are a natural part of every system. And so how do I neutralize the negative context to delay? Right now I'm stuck. This is where I'm at, is delay is just the condition you have if you don't have an instantaneous situation. Neutralize, that's what it is. Understand the delay, find out how to exploit the delay. That's really the magic. Account for the delay, exploit the delay, manage your emotion. That's what I got.
So Dr. Peter calls those implicit norms.
There we go.
Yeah, those those unwritten rules.
Yep.
Oh, you ever heard of those? He gives the example of, it was I forget the company he calls out, but he said this manager wanted people to stop having burnout. So he was like locking people out of their office, and he was like making people to go home. And what people would do, they would just take their work home. And the reason why was the unwritten rule was the people that got ahead at that company were grinders.
Yes.
There were people that act, and what Peter's saying, they studied this company, and they're like, even the guy that did the locking people out of their office and made people go home and then turned off the lights and stuff, he was a grinder too.
Yep.
He did the same behavior. Yep. And the behavior that he was trying to force his employees on, he wasn't doing himself.
Right.
And it was, so the implicit norm that they wanted to change, they weren't changing. They were just trying to do the symptom fixing.
Yes.
Yes.
Band-Aid.
Yes. Band-Aid. So it leads to the next takeaway. We're almost done here, folks. Seeing those interrelationships. You actually have to see them. And those are hard.
Yes.
So how do you see interrelationships? You have to start to make things visual. Yes. And I will say this. This is why you need Navy SEALs at lean commerce. You need protection. You know what I mean? When you start to visualize problematic behavior, or you take a bunch of this is a problem, we're making a bunch of mistakes with our concrete cycle, or hey, this is a problematic, we're actually not executing well with this planning system or whatever it is. Right. You're actually taking people's behavior and their jobs that they're being paid to do and saying, we're not doing so great, and I'm writing it and making it very visual for everyone to see, and most people don't like that, including me.
I've done that.
Yes.
No idea.
So you have to remember what I said, rough set that. You have to before you do any of that, before you bring in Jesse, you have to do all that prep work ahead of time. Because if we don't do any of that prep work ahead of time, when you bring Jesse in, everybody's going to be like, yeah, let's do this. This is great. And then Jesse will leave and everybody will just go right back to what they were doing.
Yep.
And what we'll talk about next time is leverage points and archetypes, is because of that. If you don't do the steps, the prep work ahead of it, and you can't leverage it later. And that's the reason why you do rough setting, and you take that first step and then you observe, because then you can leverage and be like, okay, now I see Okay, yeah. Okay, now just adjust left. You got it. Go. Yes. Okay, you got it. Yes. All right. You're on it. You're on your way. All right. It's like teaching a kid how to ride with training wheels. All right.
Yeah.
And then you move the training wheels up a little bit, and then you move them up a little bit, and then you take them off.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. So you have to see that, and you have to see the interrelationships of that. Should we do one more, and then we'll wrap it?
Yeah, one more, and let's wrap it up.
Okay. So if you see those interrelationships and you start to write them down, you make them visuals, you have to see the patterns too. Because we are visual, animalistic people. We are descendants of caveman. We are descendants of Abraham and Job. However you want to look at it, we are animals.
Yes.
And so we understand what a saber-toothed tiger looks like, even if we see a tail, even if we just hear it, or we understand what a lion, like a lion sounds like, or a grizzly bear. Like, like even if you just saw the outline of a grizzly bear outside of your tent, you would be scared, right?
Yeah.
Like, what patterns are, and like we can see it. I think you told me once we were walking a deck and you can smell pan oil.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pattern, right?
Yes.
You have to exploit those.
Yes.
Because if you can see patterns, right? If you knew the interrelationships, this is why tack planning is so genius. Because you can see the interrelationships between trades, the handoffs, the buffers, everything. It's all right there. Zone maps, work direction. Density. You can see how things are stacked, movements, the next plan. Oh, I love tech planning because it's all there. You give everybody all the answers too. It's like here's the questions and here's the answers to the test. It's like you can't make a wrong decision. Everything's here. Right. It's not on page 86. I have to flip to it. All the answers are here. It's like this is complete respect for people.
Right.
Why doesn't everybody do this? Anyways, but you have to see those relationships and you see the patterns.
Yeah.
As you see both. So that's why it's so powerful. But also, the patterns happen over time. This is why I get so upset about Hollywood metrics.
Yes.
Hollywood metrics, freaking fake metrics, don't let you see real patterns.
Right.
If you're fudging the numbers or you're padding your metric, like your issue, like your QA/QC, so you get a better score, doesn't help. In fact, it's worse because it doesn't affect the behavior that you want to affect. And then you don't see the patterns, and then it doesn't affect change because the behavior that you're trying to affect, they don't see the pattern.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I was doing the circular thinking, when I was at that +2 mark, what I was doing, I was snacking. I was like, I'm good at the meal counting and doing this, and I was like, I'm calorie counting, I'm doing all this stuff, but like these little handfuls of almonds or this little protein shakes, like 200 calories here.
Oh, yeah.
It sneaks up.
Yeah.
And like I finally was like, I gotta focus on this, and it was like 800-900 calories quick.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like once you start to see those patterns, and actually accept those patterns, and we'll talk about these next time. You can take responsibility on those and make adjustments for those. But you have to, once you see patterns like that, you have to go look for them. So like I said earlier, and I said this with mental wellness and suicide, if we have a hidden problem, then we have to go look for it. So if it's hidden and we don't look for it, we will never find it. And then they'll just emerge, right?
Right. And then there's
yes. And then like once it happens, it's like all the facts just come, they just come cascading out. So instead of doing that, go look for it. Go physically look for problems. Say like, oh, we're about to drop tile on this floor in 3 weeks. Let's go up there with our flashlights and like start looking for the little orange wire for the security line. If we don't see it, let's ask a question. Does this area require it? Yes or no? And it might not even be in our scope, but let's go ask a question. Maybe it's the base building. I got to go talk to Justin and be like, you know what? Yeah, that's next week. We got it. I'll be like, I can hold off for 4 days. No problem.
Right.
I want to wrap on that because that's how we really help out a lot. Yeah. And I wanted to hold it there because in chapter 6, you use all of those things that we talked about. You use delays, you use patterns and change, and now I'm starting to leverage. Yeah. And if I got a lever big enough, I can move the world.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hell yes.
Yeah, that's great.
I think what I'd like to I want to recognize Maria because that's a mind shift. Living to eat and eating to live was a super hard paradigm shift, right? Like big. And so that shift in thinking lays the path for transformation. That's what I want to say there. And then the other point I want to talk to people about is like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen them, Thomas, right? Like super, how should I say, sophisticated, not process maps. What's the value stream maps?
Oh yeah.
It show the flow of information, the flow of material, the way, like, don't get caught up in the bullshit. Like if you're there, good. But just visualize your system. Like when you have, the work, some of the work that I do is around improving the work at the point of installation. Mm-hmm. So that system is easy to observe because it's happening through the hands and the body movements of human beings. But there's also work that's not necessarily visible because it's happening through our interaction with the keyboard and a screen. But there is a system and there is a process there. So you could just map that out. What does that look like? That looks like writing step number 1, draw a circle or a box around it. Step number 2, circle or box around it. Super simple. Map out, make those steps visible to where you can see them and play with them. Then you'll start to see the patterns.
Yep. And then somebody else will look at it and be like, oh, you need steps 3 and 4. And then somebody else is like, oh, yeah, this loop needs to go in here. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have the Karen Martin value stream map, right? But you didn't need to buy lunch or go rent a conference room at the hotel, right? All it could happen naturally. I did it two weeks ago, and it was like it built upon it, and you did just what you talked about. We just started talking, and I was like, you know what? We should probably write down these steps. This sounds amazing. Yep. And then it's like, well, let's make this a process map. So I was like, well, little whiteboard action. Yep. And then somebody like came in, they're like, what the heck is this? This is freaking cool. I'm like, you're a civil engineer, get in on this. And they're like, hell yeah. So these things really happen. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Hell yeah.
Good.
I love it. That was exactly it.
Chapter 6 it is. We'll see
Thank you, Maria.
In 2 weeks. Same bat time, same bat place, unless we have delays.
Unless there's a delay, which could happen.
It could happen, but we'll deal with it. So Maria, Clyde, Daryl, Jen, let's see who else jumped in there.
There'll be definitely some news. There'll be definitely some current events between now and then.
Oh yeah.
Next week.
Yeah. Megan.
But you know what? The sun will come up the next day, and we will still live in an amazing country. You and I will still be friends.
100%.
And we'll still move forward. And I will go forth and prosper. And then 4 years, we get to do it again. Yes.
All over. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy. We'll see y'all next time. Chapter 6. Do your homework.
Read up.